Good morning from frozen Sapporo City, Hokkaido. This is Frank from 5 AM Ramen, and today we're changing things up a little bit. This is miso ramen country, but we're gonna be looking at non-miso ramen in Sapporo. Let's peel back the layers of Sapporo's famous ramen scene and go beyond miso ramen. Best of Sapporo ramen, starting now. Welcome back to 5 AM Ramen, where we have ironically not eaten ramen at 5 AM yet. I promise this is something we'll remedy in the future. I'm Frank, a Tokyo native and regular consumer of ramen. This channel is for ramen lovers or for those who simply want to know more about this incredible Japanese noodle dish. This is video number 5 in a major Hokkaido ramen series. Japan's northernmost island, Hokkaido, almost has a mystical quality to it. The same could be said about its ramen scene. The whole island loves ramen. Let me bring you up to speed. So far in the series, we visited Hakodate, sampling the city's delicious shio or salt-seasoned ramen. From Hakodate, we moved up to Sapporo, Hokkaido's largest city and capital. In Sapporo, I've been eating miso ramen like it's my job. It really is my job. In total, 8 bowls of miso ramen in Sapporo have been had. For the whole Hokkaido trip, our total ramen count is 11 bowls. I've probably had the same amount in terms of coffee too. We also enjoyed a burger, kaisendon, and some other food along the way. Anyways, we're still in Sapporo City now, and we're changing it up, eating non-miso ramen today, the finest the city has to offer. Sapporo is without a doubt miso ramen central, but there is a ton of high-level ramen here that isn't miso based. That's what we're showcasing today. If you've been following this series, you know the drill. I start my day with a light breakfast, then it's ramen crushing time. Weather reports. It's about -4 degrees Celsius or about 24 degrees Fahrenheit this morning in Sapporo. Not too cold, but not exactly warm either. Our first ramen shop of the day is Menya Takahashi, and they are tsukemen or dipping ramen specialists. They're located in South Sapporo. I took a bus to get there, transferring halfway at a bus terminal that reminded me of Disneyland's Tomorrowland when it first opened. Let's go to me on the ground right after I arrive at Menya Takahashi. I'm just waiting outside Menya Takahashi right now, here on the right-hand side after I wrote down my name. The thing about tsukemen is that it does take longer generally because the noodles are so thick. So do expect a wait time. In addition, I was asked whether I wanted hot noodles or cold noodles. Now it's winter. Normally I would say hot noodles, but cold noodles really are the way to appreciate the noodles' flavor more, also the texture of them. So I went with cold noodles. So, cold noodles hot soup for me at Menya Takahashi. In their signature tsukemen, that hot soup is soy sauce seasoned and is a mix of dried fish, chicken bones, and pork bones. It's thick and velvety. They also sprinkle an oil on top. It's made up of niboshi, or dried fish. This tsukemen got them on Tabelog's top 100 ramen list for East Japan. In the most recent version of this list, from the 100, there are 12 Sapporo entries, including Menya Takahashi. Oh man, was that good tsukemen. This was my first bowl of non-miso ramen, and I love eating miso ramen up here in Sapporo. But this bowl definitely hit closer to home. It was so good, so well balanced. The richness that you get there from chicken and pork bones, and the fish flavors. But the fish flavors, they were somewhat restrained. You still got them, but they were held back a little bit, or were presented in a more careful way. Oh, so good. Sometimes with tsukemen soup, you also get this graininess, but none of that was here. It was super smooth. Great noodles, slippery, thick, wonderfully chewy, especially because I got them cold. That was one of the best bowls of tsukemen I've ever had. For toppings, you had green negi, a little bit of sweetness, menma bamboo shoots. This was all hiding in the soup, and also nice pieces of pork chashu. I decided to add an egg as well. And to save room, I wasn't gonna get soup wari, but they asked me and I was like, I cannot say no. Soup wari is basically hot water to add to your soup. Sometimes they throw in other elements and you basically pour it in, finish up your soup that way. Oh, it was so good. I would love to try at one point when I'm back in Sapporo, their miso tsukemen, or even the spicy one. All right, gotta keep moving as part of this Sapporo ramen crawl. Our next spot is Ramen Yoshi, another Sapporo ramen shop on Tabelog's top 100 East Japan list. There's no chemical seasoning in their ramen. Like at Menya Takahashi, the ramen soup is pork bones, chicken bones, and fish. The fish includes bonito fish flakes. They use kelp as well in the soup. Even though I just described similar ingredients to Menya Takahashi, this ramen at Ramen Yoshi hits differently. And it's not just because we're comparing ramen to dipping ramen. Let's get my full recap. With these thinner noodles, I'm feeling like $1,000,000. I actually am a huge fan of thick noodles, thicker noodles, but after yesterday's miso ramen day and the day before, it just really adds up those thick noodles. Now the ramen at Yoshi is like a lot of mixed style bowls you'll see out there. That is 2 soups, one is chicken and or pork bones, the other is fish. In this one, let's say compared to the tsukemen soup at Takahashi, the soup here was more intensely fish flavored, and you really got a lot of the katsuo or bonito flavors in particular. On top of that, there was a stronger pork greasiness and a sort of messiness. Medium thick noodles to mop up the soup, some onions for pop and crunch, along with negi, solid sized chashu pork slice, and I also added an egg. Their menu is simple. Ramen with egg or rice, and also extra noodles if you want for the ramen. Certainly not as full as yesterday after having 2 bowls of miso ramen. And gearing up for round 3 as I wait for the streetcar right now. Before we get to ramen round 3, I've added some snazzy new designs to the 5 AM Ramen merch shop, including this one with ramen written in Japanese, or this one, raised on ramen. They're both available as t-shirts and hoodies. Use the coupon code you see on screen at checkout for a special discount. Details in the description below. Now, back to Sapporo Ramen. For round 3, the plan changed when the original place I wanted to visit was closed. But Sapporo has so many high-level ramen shops, so a little ramen detour means that amazing ramen is never too far away. The round 3 ramen shop I visited was Bonnokaze Sugimura Chuka Sobaten. This is normally not an issue, but I wasn't sure what ramen to get here, but I ended up going for this one. When in doubt, top left of the ticket machine. I also added an egg, just as I did at the last shops. More on this ramen decision now. Now this was a little detour. I did bookmark this place, but I originally wanted to visit Ramen Mokyobi, but they were closed and they reopen when I'm no longer in Sapporo. It's all good though. I'll be back to Sapporo. We'll just have to sample them another time. So that bowl at Bonnokaze, I was kind of debating which one to get again. They're actually a ramen restaurant that started out with a shio or salt seasoned ramen as their go-to. But within the last few years, they've been pushing a soy sauce seasoned or shoyu seasoned ramen. And then there were 2 choices for this. One with a fish leaning soup and the other with a chicken stock soup. I'll toss up again here, but since Ramen Mokyobi, the closed ramen shop, was a fish-based place, I decided to go fish-based. And it wasn't super fishy or fishy as it could be, and certainly not as fishy as the second shop. And it was interesting because the soy sauce or shoyu that they used was more like a Chinese soy sauce, more soybeans than wheat. As such, it had a very salty, aggressive flavor and not that much sweetness. This was maybe also a reason that the fish flavors were masked somewhat. Pretty thin noodles, a whole lot of negi. I added an egg, as has been the pattern I've been following since this morning. You know the drill with the toppings, pretty similar from shop to shop, and they've all been solid. Although I do believe the tsukemen pork slices this morning were the best out of all the toppings for these first 3 bowls. And that was my favorite bowl thus far. I still got some room left, but slowing down a little bit. But at least for this afternoon, I'm gonna squeeze in 1 more bowl. And I feel a little bad because I'm showing all of you soy sauce seasoned ramen. I was like, oh, maybe I should have changed it up with the shio, but I am going with their signature dish. And of course, each one of these is a little bit different. Whether it's in dipping ramen form, thicker, richer soup for ramen, or a lighter one that we just had. And again, that soy sauce really changed the whole flavor profile there. And now the place I'm going to might be the most modern of the 4. Huge splash they made here in Sapporo, regarded as one of the top ranked ramen shops in Sapporo. For what else? A soy sauce seasoned bowl, but with a very modern approach. Let's do this. 4 bowls in a 3-hour period. Round 4 will be taking place at Japanese Ramen Noodle Lab Q. Modern interior, modern ramen. Like a lot of top level spots doing lighter, pretty looking ramen, choose shoyu or shio. I went with the shoyu. They use a whopping 10 types of shoyu. 10. For the soup, it's all about chickens. Whole chickens in the soup and chicken oil on top of it. 5 different chicken breeds from around the country. The pork chashu toppings, pork loin and pork ribs are fantastic. They use pork from Hokkaido, and one of these bad boys is prepared with kelp. The thin, flat noodles are 6 types of wheat flour. Okay, now they're just showing off. But there's no doubt that Japanese Ramen Noodle Lab Q goes all out. Okay, back at the hotel, nursing my ramen battle wounds. Now I'm full. What was that, 4 bowls in 3 hours? So yeah, my stomach is a little bit heavier than when I left this morning. Face a little fuller too, I think. Hat hair, of course. So, Japanese Ramen Noodle Lab Q. Quite the snazzy interior, a little waiting area with magazines, and I went with the shoyu, of course, because that's what they're known for. Beautiful noodle fold, arrangement of the toppings, very sleek looking. Now it is priced higher than the other bowls I introduced today, but you have to understand that they're pulling out all the stops. They're using a ridiculous amount of ingredients, getting into double-digit territory here, pretty crazy. Now, of course, there are always the great bowls where simple is best. This was one that really looks to push the boundaries of ramen in a modern and elegant way. And in terms of flavor, it's like a lot of whole chicken, rich soy sauce powered bowls that you get in Tokyo. The soy sauce is a little bit sweet, and the soup is very silky from whole chickens and also a generous amount of chicken oil. And of course, it was delicious. The thin noodles that are paired with the soup soak it up like a straw. Specially prepared pork belly on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side, this pork chashu, wow. Prepared with kelp, low temperature, low heat cooked to perfection. That chashu pork. And on the 4th bowl, to get excited when your stomach is as full as mine is right now, something has to stand out, and that pork chashu stood out tremendously. It was so good. It's places like Japanese Ramen Noodle Lab Q that are really elevating the Sapporo ramen scene, especially because they're using so many Hokkaido ingredients. They're really proud of the fact that they're based in Hokkaido and they want to showcase Hokkaido. So Sapporo, Hokkaido is really becoming more than just a miso ramen area. Of course, miso ramen is king here, but a lot of these high-level shops are proving that locals can appreciate other styles of ramen, and they're gonna push the boundaries. And Noodle Lab Q is a shining example of that. I'm gonna be closing out this video. If you enjoyed it, please hit that like button, subscribe, and let me know which of the 4 bowls did you like the most. All were terrific, but I'm still gonna have dreams for a long time about that tsukemen. Frank from 5am Ramen signing out, and see you in the next video. All were terrific, but I'm still gonna have dreams for a long time about that tsukemen. This donut wrapped in plastic has been the best thing that's happened to me recently. And it's gonna have a chewy texture or mochiri texture and cream inside. Oh my god. I've been eating these every night after the ramen in Sapporo. Oh. That texture. It doesn't look like much, but the texture is so good. I don't know why I'm eating more. I can't help it. I think I'm gonna go on a vegetable diet when I get back to Tokyo.